Welcome to episode 10 of the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. I'm a mother of 3, a yoga teacher, and a consultant for yoga teachers and studios. This podcast was born out of how I feel between yoga teacher trainings. I sometimes feel isolated in the wilderness of yoga entrepreneurship. For me, a yoga teacher training would offer me growth and learning, motivation to practice, and most of all, a supportive community of other yoga teachers. When I'm out teaching weekly classes and not in a yoga teacher training, I miss these elements. So I wanted to create a place where you, as a yoga teacher, could feel connected to knowledge, inspiration, and most of all, to a supportive community of other yoga teachers. So here we are already at episode 10 together. Thank you so much to all of you who are downloading, subscribing, and reviewing the podcast. It means a lot. I checked around episode 8 to see how we're doing in terms of downloads, and I saw that we had over 1,300 downloads. So thanks so much, you guys. I really had envisioned that across the world, yoga teachers could really be connecting with information, with inspiration, and also connecting with each other. So if you would like to connect with a global group of other yoga teachers, make sure to go to our website, theconnectedyogateacher.com, and you'll see a button there where you can join our community, and you can also subscribe to the newsletter. Today's episode has been brought to you by the letters R and R and R. Rejuvenate, restore, and relaxation. Sean, that's for you because I know that you were waiting until the podcast was brought to you by a letter like Sesame Street. Today, we're going to really dive in and talk about relaxation. Savasana, which is a Sanskrit word that literally translates to mean corpse pose. Many of you tell me that you listen to this podcast while you're driving, you're cleaning, or you're out in your garden. So I don't want to lead you through an actual guided Savasana. If you would like that, check out the live show number 13, and I'll put a link in the show notes here. We co-created one. The Connected Yoga Teacher community did, and it's about 10 minutes long, and it's a really nice treat. Today, though, I really want to share a few notes on things that I've learned over my 10 plus years of teaching yoga. Some things I always include, some things I try hard to avoid, and some are just a few little extra touches that I sometimes include. So take a little moment right now to think back to the last time you were in a yoga class and had a great relaxation. Remember how you felt as the teacher slowly guided you back to seated with your eyes opening again. What happened next? Maybe you had an om to close, maybe not. Then what? Since I started yoga, I notice how vital Savasana is to my well-being. Life throws things at me that deplete, and yoga, especially the yin aspects of relaxation and restorative yoga, fill me up again. Funny thing though, Savasana is also the part that I most often skip when I'm practicing at home. Thoughts of laundry needing to be switched or a child with a question that leads me to an action can lead me to deprive myself of this much needed rejuvenation time. Sometimes I switch things up and start with Savasana or add it to the middle of my practice, but it isn't the same as one that's at the end of a practice, and it certainly isn't the same for me as one that's in a live class. When I teach classes, students often say that Savasana is their favorite part. They come up to sitting and they actually look different than when they first walked into class. They look more, relaxed. In a community class, when I'm the student, I love Savasana because it's expected that I stay still and I stay there. There isn't anything else I could do except fidget or leave. I settle in and I make myself super comfortable. I drift into a blissful state, and then I feel refreshed and ready to take on anything as I slowly come back to sitting. I'm also a little groggy and quieter than normal. This is not the time to ask me math questions or to play loud dance music. At the end of a yoga class, I want that deep peace to last as long as possible. In the past few years, I've begun to look more in depth at how I can hold space for my students as they come out of Shavasana. I'm a little bit embarrassed, but I think it's helpful if I share, to think of how I have ended my classes sometimes. It may give you some more insights on how to nurture the rejuvenating space that students are craving. We put so much time, thought, and work into creating a class to unwind body and mind that it's really worth it to look at the after Shavasana time. So to get things started here, I want to share 3 things that I really try hard to avoid after Shavasana. Just so you know, I've done all of these 3 things and I am not sharing them to bring any shame to any yoga teacher. I'm just sharing because I've learned through experience that these don't work very well for me or for the students that I am teaching. So number 1 is talk of future classes, workshops, and events. I work really hard for the entire class to bring my yoga students into the present moment. Students are there, they're in their happy place. And at the end of Shavasana is not really the time to start calling out dates and times and bringing my students into the visualization of their already full calendar. The best time to bring this up is probably at the beginning of a class when people are chatting, maybe going into the class, maybe in a newsletter, on social media, and sometimes, if the opportunity arises, during the class. For example, I may plan to incorporate 2 restorative yoga poses into my class. Then, I may tell students that if they really enjoy the restorative part of that, then they can attend a workshop on restorative yoga that the studio is offering. It might not even be a workshop that I'm hosting myself, but I like to also promote other teachers' workshops. Number 2 in this list of what I now avoid after Shavasana is more yoga poses and thoughts on the theme of the class. So this is the time where the class is closing, people are saying goodbye, they're getting up, they're cleaning up their props, their mats. If I miss something, I try and write it down and either include it next week or put it into a blog or a newsletter. There's really no need for me to tell students, oh, I missed something, like come on back and we'll add this thing in. But instead, if I add it into a newsletter or if I create a blog post and then send that in a newsletter, then it's a bonus of material for students. So they're like, wow, we got the class and plus this bonus, instead of feeling like, oh shoot, she planned out the class and she forgot to include this thing. Often students have questions at the end of the class. I'm going to chat about it a little bit more in what I do include after Shavasana. Number 3 in this list is my life news. This might be the hardest for me because the students that attend classes with me on a regular basis do often stick around and chat and ask me questions about my life, my garden, my kids, and then share things about their lives. I certainly do answer my students, but at the same time, I'm careful not to be offering too much. I feel like I found this balance in Thai yoga massage. Often people like silence in relaxation and in massage, but when you get to know a client or a student well, they sometimes like to visit and share. So I came up with a general rule where I answer questions simply and I avoid expanding on thoughts or initiating a conversation topic. Those of you who know me well know that I love a great conversation. So this is a mindful practice for me that I continue to work on. So to summarize my list of what I now avoid after Shavasana, 3 things. Talk of future classes, workshop, and events is number 1. Number 2 is more yoga and thoughts on the theme of the class. And number 3 is my life news. So next I want to share with you 2 things that I try really hard to include in every class after Shavasana. The first is an offer to answer questions. Usually right at the end of Shavasana, I like to say something like, feel free to ask me any questions about today's practice or about yoga in general. I'm here for the next 15 to 20 minutes, just cleaning up and getting ready before our next class arrives. Often, this gives permission to students to really ask those questions that are on their mind. So they do come up and they do ask them to me. I'm careful about a couple of things here. If students are asking me questions that really feel like they're beyond my job, beyond my expertise as a yoga teacher, like say they ask me a question about a bulging disc, I would automatically ask them if they're talking to a healthcare provider or if they're working with a physiotherapist. So I'm really careful about doing that first. And the second thing is, and I don't think I'm really very good on this one, is I try not to promise too much. So my weeks are really full. Sometimes I'll write something down like, oh, bring this student this thing. And then I realize, oh my goodness, getting into the class the next week, I've totally forgotten to look that up. So I definitely offer ideas and thoughts when students ask me, and I know I do try and go back and research what I don't know. But the one thing is that I forget. I forget how busy my week is going to be. One little note about these questions. These are the questions that can start to formulate your content. For example, if a student came up to me at the end of class and said, look, I'm having this horrible time getting back to sleep at night. I'm waking up a lot. Is there anything that you know of that can help me? I might offer a pose or two or some suggestions right then, but then I might decide to do some more research and do an entire class or blog post or newsletter on yoga for sleep. So keep this in mind when you get your email questions and when people come and approach you. You might just want to jot down question from a student, yoga for sleep, and then look at that further. The second thing that I try to do at the end of Shavasana in every class is a goodbye to everyone. And I really try to use everyone's first name. Sometimes I don't know everyone's first name. And then I will be saying, have a wonderful week. See you next week. Take care. And this can be a little tricky when I'm already in conversation with the student who's there asking questions or telling me what their experience was like in the class, or maybe I'm helping to clear up props or doing the paperwork at the end of the class. But it is something that I aim to do. My biggest tip on this one is to sit near the door where people go out. So at our studio, we kind of have this little stair step there, and I try and sit myself down. If I have a handout to go home with them, I sit them beside me. And if I have my paperwork, I can do it between students coming up, and then I can kind of see everyone on their way out and tell them goodbye, have a great week. And I like to have that personal touch at the end of the class. So those are two lists for the after Shavasana time. What to try to include, what to try to exclude. And there's one more list of things that I'd like to share with you today. Those are the things that I sometimes include after Shavasana. These are things that I don't always add in, but they are elements that I have curated from other classes and teachers. I've changed them to suit the students and my style of teaching. And I'd invite you to do the same, as you would with any yoga pose, pranayama, or meditation. Feel free to try these out, see if they resonate with you and your students, and then change them to suit you. If you have other things beyond this list of what I'm about to share, I would love to hear from you. Either share in the comments section of our show notes or jump over to the Connected Yoga Teacher private Facebook group and share there with our community. This is also a great space to share any question. It can be about a podcast or it could be something else. The easiest way to find the Facebook group might be through our website. So it's theconnectedyogateacher.com, and you can just click on the Join the Community button there on the front page. Okay, so back to this list of what I sometimes, but not always, include after Shavasana. The first one is meditation. And you might be thinking, wait a second, what? After Shavasana? Now, let me explain that this came out of my first yoga teacher training that was with Satarm Kaur in the Kundalini yoga tradition. And this is where I started to really appreciate meditation after Shavasana. It's something that I think everyone should try once. It makes sense when you think about it. The asanas or yoga poses were designed to prepare the body and the mind for meditation. So it only makes sense that we go through the yoga practice, we move into Shavasana, and then we are able to sit in meditation. If you are going to try this out with your students, I suggest first trying it out yourself to see if you like it, because if you don't like it, chances are your students aren't going to really like you sharing it. It's just the way it kind of works. Second of all, I would tell them before you get into Shavasana that you're going to try something new and you're going to put meditation after Shavasana. Sometimes they're pretty groggy coming out of Shavasana and they might be starting to pack things up and get ready to go. So if you are going to add it in, give that a try, letting them know. Number 2 on this list is an Om. I often close class with an Om, but I like to really emphasize to my students that it's a choice, whether they decide to Om with me or not. I want to share this story. I once had a group of really sweet prenatal students approach me and tell me that they liked my teaching style and they really liked the classes, but they were all banding together and not doing the Om at the end. They had decided as a group, and as I said, there were 6 of them, that they would not be doing anything about the Om. And I really still smile thinking about that conversation. I'm happy that they felt comfortable enough to approach me. And this is a real exhibit of student self-determination. And I think it's beautiful. So for that class, I took the Om out. They had voiced that they weren't comfortable with it, all 6 of them. And so we took it out. Number 3 is gratitude to self and others. This is something that I sometimes include, and it is quite often. I do this when eyes are closed and often when hands are in prayer pose or in Jali Mudra. This is where I invite students to give thanks to self for carving out this time, and I also invite them to give thanks to those practicing around them as the supportive cheerleaders in their lives. Number 4 on this list is releasing what is no longer serving. I can't remember the teacher that said this, but it really stuck with me. So after the Om and the gratitude, I'll often say something like, exhale and gently fold forward, releasing anything that no longer serves you. Inhale, coming back up to sitting, bringing with you what you would like for the rest of this week. For me, this is a way to let go of the practice and also let go of anything else that needs to be released. The 5th element that I often include is a namaste. With hands in Anjali Mudra, I say namaste, and I bow forward slightly, and I make sure to bow forward slightly to each student in the class. If students are new to my class, I'll often explain saying namaste is Sanskrit and means the light in me sees the light in you. This is my time to give thanks to each student who are my teachers as well. To recap of that list of what I sometimes but not always include after Shavasana, number 1 is meditation, number 2 is Om, 3 is gratitude to self and to others, 4 is releasing what is no longer serving, and 5 is a namaste. And now I'm going to put it out there to you. What are some of the things that you really include, exclude, or sometimes include after Shavasana? Or even share with us what your favorite Shavasana looks like, or something that you really love to treat your students to in Shavasana. To do that, simply go over to theconnectedyogateacher.com, look for the show notes for this episode number 10, put your comments in there. To close out today's episode, I'd like to share some words from our yoga teachers around the world in the Connected Yoga Teacher group. Thanks so much, you guys, for submitting these. Amanda Erickson commented on an article of mine, and I really would like to share this. She says that she uses this trick to stay in Shavasana time at home. After I shared that this is a struggle of mine, Amanda says, I like to listen to the same song. There are lots of nice, long 10, 15, or even 20-minute yogi songs to choose from. I often listen to Gift or The Desert Song by Lisbeth Scott. My body seems to slip into the blissful state much quicker as it recognizes the tune. I also find myself, as if magic, beginning to come back into the room when the song has only 3 minutes to go. If I am completely lost or fallen asleep, I know I will wake up when the music ends. So thanks for that, Amanda. Very cool. And I've been using that for my own Shavasana at home. I asked a question in our private Facebook group for yoga teachers. I asked, what is something you like to do for your students in Shavasana to make them feel nurtured? And Kathy Scott said she turns off the lights or dims them as much as possible. She makes sure that they're warm and comfortable, using whatever is available for that. Sometimes music turned down very low. Thank you for commenting, Kathy. Roslyn, who you guys might have remembered from our episode on how to teach online classes, says that she adds a sandbag to the hips or the feet. I also like to practice metta meditation for each student while they're in Shavasana. I have a copy of the metta meditation. If you guys would like to see that, let me know in the comments and I can add it to our show notes. I have never done this, Roslyn, with the sandbag, but we have sandbags at our studio. Sometimes students will get them and put them on their hips, but I'm going to try this week. Maisie Kennedy says, sometimes I offer a block to lay on the belly. I usually give a head massage if I know the students. Sounds really nice. I wish I was a little closer to go to your class, Maisie. Emily McConnell says, as we're entering Shavasana, I ask permission to use essential oils, therapeutic grade, and give students a drop and a short head and neck massage. That sounds delicious for Shavasana. Thank you guys for sharing your comments. Next, we hear from Joanne Pettit-Myers, who is a yoga teacher. And I think I met Joanne at a Thai yoga massage training. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne. Joanne is the first person to use our audio message system for the Connected Yoga Teacher. I'm going to try and get that up on our homepage so you guys can all leave me a message if you want to. Here is what Joanne sometimes includes in Shavasana.
Hi, Shannon. It's Joanne from Bend Yoga in Dundas, Ontario. Sometimes when I want to do a class that I know is going to be full of awakenings, I know that that day is going to be full of lots of movement and lots of things that really open up the client or clients. I'll start with this poem and end with it because opening with it brings about the possibility of opening. And then at the end, reiterating it just brings them back to that moment. Here's how it goes. We have come to be danced, not the pretty dance, not the pretty pick me dance, but the claw our way back into the belly of the sacred, sensual animal dance, the unhinged, unplugged, cat is out of the box dance, the holding the precious moment in the palms of our hands and feet dance. We have come to be danced, not the jiffy booby, shake your booty for him dance, but the wring the sadness from our skin dance, the blow the chip off our shoulder dance, the slap the apology from our posture dance. We have come to be danced. Not the monkey see, monkey do dance, 1, 2, dance like you, 1, 2, 3, dance like me dance, but the grave robber, tomb stalker, tearing scabs and scars open dance, the rub, the rhythm raw against our soul dance. We have come to be danced. Not the nice, invisible, self-conscious shuffle, but the matted hair flying voodoo mama, shaman shaken ancient bones dance, to strip us from our casings, return our wings, sharpen our claws and tongues dance, the shed dead cells and slip into the luminous skin of love dance. We have come to be danced. Not the hold our breath and wallow in the shallow end of the floor dance, but the meeting of the Trinity, the body breath and beat dance, the shout hallelujah from the top of our thighs dance, the mother may I, yes you may, take 10 giant leaps dance, the ollie ollie oxen free dance, the everyone can come to our heaven dance. We have come to be danced, where the kingdoms collide in the cathedral of flesh, to burn back into the light, to unravel, to play, to fly, to pray, to root in skin sanctuary. We have come to be danced. We have come. I don't know the name of that poem, but it's by a woman named Jewel Matheson, and Matheson is Mathieson. I hope that is something that other people can share because people love it. And usually after a class, most people ask for a copy. Hope you have a great one. Love the podcast. Bye.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Joanne. So cool that it's in your own voice. I love that poem, and I am going to use it definitely in a yoga class soon. For those of you wanting a copy of that poem, it'll be available in our show notes. Next, we're going to hear from Vicki Rossell. I've had the privilege of going to a class with Vicki and experiencing her Shavasana, so I'm excited that you guys get to hear how she ends class.
Hello, Connected Yoga teachers. My name is Vicki Rossell, and I teach Yin Yoga and Vinyasa Yoga in Meaford and Owen Sound. And my favorite thing to offer during Shavasana is a little bit of sound healing using my Tibetan singing bowls. And I love using Tibetan singing bowls during Shavasana because they really help students drop into a deeper state of relaxation, which is really important when you only have between 5 and 10 minutes at the end of a class for Shavasana. And I've received lots of really positive feedback when I use my singing bowls during Shavasana. Students often describe it as just extremely relaxing. It helps kind of anchor busy minds. That's been described to me in one way. When, the mind starts to wander, the sound helps bring your awareness back, especially in Shavasana if you have a little bit of trouble settling in and letting your mind soften. And I've also heard students describe singing bowls during Shavasana as like a sound massage, because you can feel the vibration of the singing bowls through your entire body, which I think is really neat because for me, it's a way that I can offer an assist to my students without actually having to physically put my hands on them, which is really nice because not everybody is comfortable with a physical assist. And also during Shavasana, if a student's kind of drifted into a really relaxed state or maybe even a light sleep, if I come around and put my hands on them, it could be a little bit jarring and it might, bring them out of that relaxed state. So I found it just very beneficial to use sound during Shavasana, and people really seem to enjoy it, and they benefit a lot from it, which is really nice. So it's been like the icing on the cake at the end of a class for me to be able to offer that and have people really enjoy it and really benefit from it. So now if I don't bring my singing, the downside of that is now if I don't bring a singing bowl to class, I have often some disappointed students. So it is an extra bag that I have to carry to class, but I think it's really worth it because everybody seems to love them and just really benefit from receiving a little bit of sound healing at the end of class. I'm really excited for this Facebook live show, and I'm excited to hear everybody else's awesome Shavasana offerings. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. Have a great day, everyone.
So to close out today, I'd like to leave you with a quote from Judith Hanson Lasater. Rest deeply in Shavasana every day. Always enter that pratyahara, withdrawn state every day. And just enjoy yourself.